President Trump is in the building. The White House, of course, with Republicans occupying both houses on the other side of the Beltway. Now, here to share what to expect from the new government is John Forbes, Senior Advisor to the American Chamber of Commerce. John, good to have you with us.
Good. Nice to be back with you again.
Well, brave new world, brand new day. First things first, let's talk about bilateral relations here. Are we expecting a reset on foreign relations between the two administrations given? You've got a new president, and he seems to get along perfectly, or at least well better than Obama. This is Trump and Duterte, of course.
Well, of course, the question of reset means when are you starting from? You're starting from 1898 or 1946?
Well, at least personality-wise,
or 2016. I think the term is overused. The relations are essentially inseparable and may be modified somewhat. We don't know a lot about what the new administration in Washington is going to do. We don't know their attitude towards foreign aid, either economic or military. The new president did say towards the end of his address that he wanted to keep old alliances and build new alliances. So we also know the emphasis he placed on America first, both in terms of jobs and in purchasing. That's not always so easy to do.
Well, you know, John, on a personal level, at least compared to Obama, you're talking about, you know, two gentlemen who actually have, you know, better ties. But do you think the appointment of Governor Haley to the UN and her states like that will throw a monkey wrench in the works?
Look, once it gets organized, as of last week, only 2 cabinet secretaries were confirmed
by the Senate, yes.
Homeland Security and Defense. They're way behind in getting the confirmations of other major agency heads even moving. And then you have vacancies in the NSC, in the Pentagon, and the State Department because the transition was disorganized and late in starting. So you have people leaving. They've left town along with the president. And vacancies. So they got clearances involved. It's going to be months before we have a really clear picture. Now, one thing you do have is the document that was released by the Trump organization about what they would do within 100 days. And that includes the Offshoring Act. And that means if they're going to pass that within 100 days, we should see the text of it.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I was going to lead to, because we're now talking about the death knell for the TPP, tariffs on imports to the U.S., and at the same time, penalties for overseas manufacturing. Do you think, for example, given the fact that the BPO sector, you know, it comprises 8 out of 10 jobs going to the States, I mean, is that going to be affected in your view?
Well, last time I checked, the U.S. belonged to the WTO. Right? There's something called the MFN, Most Favored Nation.
Clause,
right?
Yes.
Even the call in government procurement, there's something called there's a government procurement agreement that the U.S. belongs to. The Philippines does not, but the U.S. is supposed to have open procurement with the other countries that belong to that. BPO is very hard to move. Those jobs, those people that want to work in that sector, 1.2 million, don't exist in the United States. It's not as desirable a type of work as it is here. So I think the BPO is going to, it may feel threatened right now, but it's going to be very difficult to do. As far as tariffs are concerned, there's talk of an import tariff. Now, again, under WTO, that's going to have to be universal. You can't just direct it against one particular car manufacturer in Mexico on one type of car.
Yeah, beyond NAFTA, there is an entire spaghetti bowl of agreements that we've signed up to, at least, right?
Who? We?
I mean,
U.S.?
The U.S. and the Philippines. I mean, the Philippines is in the WTO as well.
Philippines is in the WTO. The Philippines has extensive FTA agreements with China, with India, with Japan, et cetera, et cetera. What we don't have is a FTA with bilaterally between the United States and the Philippines that was talked about in the early 1970s, but it never proceeded. There was an opportunity to get into the TPP. Philippines did not join. The U.S., as Trump has said, is not going to be in the TPP. Australia and Japan have talked about perhaps moving the TPP forward without the United States. And there's RCEP. RCEP's going to move forward. They've met 16 times.
Well, you're seeing more bilateral deals then. I mean, you're talking about the UK and the US looking at a trade deal. You're looking at the resurrection of this free bilateral trade agreement between the U.S. and the Philippines moving forward, and will you push that for that?
Well, there's a problem with that. I mean, yes, certainly the Chamber, which is open and supportive of free trade. We do it every time we go to Washington. We do our door knocks there. Would support a bilateral one. But guess what? Congressmen of their districts all the United States don't like to vote for these things. That's exactly the reason why they move towards plurilateral. Colombia, Panama, Korea were the last ones. They spent all their time talking in the Obama administration
trying to
about
get
a
in the door,
TPP
yes.
and a transatlantic.
Now, John, whether or not we push through with any of these deals, your members themselves, are they concerned? Are they moving forward with investment plans in the Philippines, whether it be BPO, semiconductor, or other industries?
Well, they have historically, and we have companies that have been here 70 or 80 years, invested in the Philippine economy as the Philippine economy grows. But there are differences. There are companies that that invest only and work only in the domestic economy. Let's say you're in oil and gas, or you're manufacturing cars for the domestic economy, not for export. And there are others that are exporting. The largest,
especially in the economic zones that bring it out.
Well, the largest export in the country is an American company, and
exactly.
that product goes up to China, and it goes into an Apple phone. The Apple phone then is sold in China and all over the world, particularly the United States. So what's Apple going to do? Or Foxconn?
Well, at the end of the day, you're looking at a global supply chain as well to hedge with these things. Now, one thing to talk about on security is you've got a nexus now between governance and, you know, in business. You have a former CEO of Exxon nominated as Secretary of State. He wants to curb the annexation of disputed reefs, and at the same time, there's a large trade volume going through the South China Sea. Do you see cooler heads prevailing, or do you see the situation escalating in terms of security?
Well, Mr. Tillerson, as head of ESSO, does know about the South China Sea. That company had business agreements with Petro Vietnam,
yes.
And of course it explored here, even the Sulu Sea a few years ago. I think what he said worries people. It's all right to say it, and it's obviously been commented on by Beijing as something as almost a warlike sort of threat. Very, very difficult to do, and I think cooler heads should really talk out what to do about the South China Sea, although the militarization of the islands is a concern.
Well, there's certainly a lot at stake, and it's still early goings. Lastly, John, because you're one of the principal movers behind the Arrancada Business Forum, we talk about the effect of all this rebalancing in terms of competitiveness, and that is really the main focus that you've been looking at. We have here this, you know, I've taken some charts, I've cherry-picked some of the charts here. 10 points down, labor market efficiency, endo notwithstanding down 4 points. Higher education training, that's up, but guess what? Technological readiness down by 15. Tell us about what specific areas you'd like to see the Duterte administration focus on to really get competitiveness back on track.
Well, I think competitiveness has been on track over the years historically, and there's a lot of awareness of what needs to be done. One of the big things is infrastructure. As you know, the Philippines, when you compare it to the other large 5 or 6 ASEAN economies, right? It's down there at 100. It's down there
and
too
equality
low.
as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, the last administration started a process that hopefully this administration will pile on top of improving expressways, of airports, and bringing in railroads. So that's one test. Another one is agriculture. The country can make tremendous gains in agriculture, but can't do it by just continuing the unsuccessful process of land reform that has not failed in this country, unlike Korea and Japan and Taiwan. So new paradigms are necessary there. And then mining. Mining is being suppressed rather than supported. And,
all right. So agriculture, mining, and infrastructure.
Infrastructure would help.
John, I appreciate your insights and your work at Arrancada.
Okay.
John Forbes, Senior Advisor at AmCham.
All right. Thank you, Quentin.